Chapter 1. Chapter 1. The Gathering. The sun had barely risen over Lake Serenity, casting a golden hue across the water that shimmered like 1,000 diamonds. The air was crisp, filled with the invigorating scent of pine and the promise of adventure. Just the day before, the group had gathered at the local diner, where laughter mingled with the aroma of fresh coffee and pancakes. They had made plans, their voices rising above the clatter of dishes, each one eager to escape the mundane for a day of fishing and camaraderie. But beneath the surface of their excitement lay unspoken tensions, secrets waiting to surface like fish breaking the water's calm. As the sun climbed higher, Mary Kate stood at the edge of the dock, her heart racing with anticipation. She could hear the soft lapping of the water against the wooden posts, a soothing rhythm that contrasted with the fluttering in her chest. Today was supposed to be a day of fun, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. She glanced back at the path leading to the dock, where her friends would soon appear, each bringing their own energy to the gathering. "Hey, Mary Kate." A voice broke through her thoughts, and she turned to see Brad striding toward her, his easy smile lighting up his face. He was dressed in a faded blue t-shirt and cargo shorts, his hair tousled by the morning breeze. "You're not getting cold feet, are you?" "Not a chance," she replied, forcing a smile. "Just enjoying the view. It's beautiful out here." Brad leaned against the railing, his gaze drifting over the lake. "You know, I've always thought this place was magical. It's like the world slows down, just for us." He turned to her, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "And I'm pretty sure the fish are just waiting to be caught by the best angler in town." Mary Kate rolled her eyes, but a blush crept up her cheeks. "You're just trying to butter me up so I'll let you use my lucky rod." "Guilty as charged," he laughed, the sound warm and inviting. "But seriously, I can't wait to see who catches the biggest fish today. Loser buys dinner at the diner." "Deal," she said, feeling a surge of competitive spirit. But as she watched him, a flicker of something deeper passed between them, a moment that felt charged with unspoken words. Before she could dwell on it, the sound of footsteps approached, breaking the spell. "Look who finally decided to show up," Paige called out, her voice bright and teasing. She bounded down the path, her long hair bouncing with each step. "I thought we'd have to send out a search party." Yeah, we're here," Liv chimed in, her arms laden with fishing gear. "Some of us just take longer to get ready for a day of adventure." Caitlin followed closely behind, her expression a mix of excitement and determination. "I hope you all brought your A game. I'm not losing to any of you today." Ashley trailed behind, her laughter ringing out like a melody. "Caitlin, you say that every time, and yet here we are, still waiting for you to catch something other than a cold." "Very funny, Ashley," Caitlin shot back, but her smile betrayed her amusement. The group settled into their familiar banter, the air thick with camaraderie and the scent of pine needles. As they unloaded their gear, Mary Kate felt a sense of belonging wash over her. This was her tribe, a collection of mismatched pieces that somehow fit together perfectly. Each friend brought their own quirks and charms, and together they created a tapestry of laughter and memories. But as they prepared for the day ahead, Mary Kate couldn't shake the feeling that beneath the surface of their playful teasing, something was brewing. A tension that threatened to unravel the fabric of their friendship. "All right, everyone, let's get this show on the road." Brad clapped his hands together, his enthusiasm infectious. "Who's ready to catch some fish?" "I am," Paige shouted, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "But first, we need to take a group photo. This is a moment we'll want to remember." They gathered at the edge of the dock, the sun casting a warm glow over them. Mary Kate stood between Brad and Caitlin, her heart racing as she felt the warmth of Brad's shoulder against hers. "Say, fish." Paige called out, and they all grinned, the moment frozen in time. As the camera clicked, Mary-Kate felt a pang of nostalgia. This was the kind of day she had dreamed of. Sunshine, laughter, and the thrill of adventure. But as she looked at her friends, she couldn't help but wonder what secrets lay hidden beneath their smiles. Okay, enough with the pictures. Let's fish, Liv declared, her competitive spirit shining through. They grabbed their rods and made their way to the edge of the dock, the water glistening invitingly below. Mary-Kate cast her line first, the lure splashing into the water with a satisfying plop. She felt the thrill of anticipation as she waited, the gentle sway of the dock beneath her feet grounding her in the moment. The others followed suit, each one lost in their own world of concentration and excitement. Minutes passed, filled with the sounds of laughter and the occasional splash of a fish breaking the surface. But as the sun climbed higher, the laughter began to fade, replaced by a growing tension that Mary-Kate couldn't ignore. She glanced around, noticing the way Caitlin's smile had dimmed, the way Ashley's laughter had turned into nervous giggles. Something was off. Hey, what's going on? Mary-Kate asked, breaking the silence that had settled over them. You all seem a little off. It's nothing, Caitlin replied quickly, but her eyes betrayed her. Just thinking about things. Like what? Liv pressed, her brow furrowing in concern. We're supposed to be having fun. Yeah, lighten up, Caitlin. Ashley chimed in, but her tone lacked its usual playfulness. Mary-Kate felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Seriously, if something's bothering you, we can talk about it. Caitlin hesitated, her gaze flickering to the water. It's just, I've been thinking about how things are changing. We're all going in different directions, and I don't want to lose what we have. The weight of her words hung in the air, and Mary-Kate felt a chill run down her spine. She had sensed it too. The subtle shifts in their friendships, the way life was pulling them in different directions. But she hadn't wanted to acknowledge it, not today. Caitlin, we're not going anywhere, Brad said, his voice steady. We'll always have this. We're a team. Are we? Caitlin's voice trembled slightly, and Mary-Kate could see the vulnerability beneath her bravado. What if we drift apart? Chapter 2. Chapter 2. Into the canoe. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a golden hue over the tranquil lake, where the water shimmered like 1,000 scattered diamonds. In the previous chapter, we met Mary-Kate, Paige, Liv, Caitlin, Ashley, and Brad, a tight-knit group of friends eager to embark on a fishing trip that promised laughter and adventure. Their playful banter echoed across the dock, a symphony of youthful exuberance that masked the undercurrents of unspoken feelings swirling just beneath the surface. As they gathered their gear, the scent of pine mingled with the crispness of the lake air, setting the stage for a day that would change everything. Now, as they approached the small, rustic canoe bobbing gently at the dock, the excitement was palpable. The canoe, with its weathered wood and faded paint, seemed to beckon them, a vessel of memories waiting to be made. Mary-Kate stepped forward first, her heart racing with anticipation. All right, team. Let's make sure we don't tip this thing over before we even get started. Speak for yourself, Mary-Kate, Brad teased, his eyes sparkling with mischief. I'm counting on you to keep us afloat. Ashley rolled her eyes, but a smile tugged at her lips. You're just jealous because I'm the best paddler here. Best paddler. Please, you nearly capsized us last summer. Caitlin chimed in, her laughter ringing out like a bell. Okay, let's settle this on the water, Liv said, her voice a calming presence amidst the playful chaos. She stepped into the canoe with a grace that belied her excitement, her eyes shining with the thrill of adventure. Just remember, we're here to fish, not to fight. As they all clambered into the canoe, The wood creaked under their weight, a reminder of its age but also its resilience. The canoe rocked gently, and for a moment, they all held their breath, exchanging nervous glances. But as the initial wobble settled, a wave of relief washed over them, and they began to settle into their seats, laughter bubbling up once more. "Who's got the snacks?" Paige asked, rummaging through her backpack. "Right here." Ashley produced a bag of chips, the crinkling sound echoing like a promise of fun. "But only if you promise not to throw them overboard this time, Brad." "Me. I would never," he exclaimed, feigning innocence, but the glint in his eye suggested otherwise. As they paddled out into the shimmering expanse of the lake, the world around them transformed. The laughter of their friends faded into the background, replaced by the soft lapping of water against the canoe and the distant call of a loon. The sun warmed their skin, and the scent of the lake, fresh and invigorating, filled their lungs. "Remember that time we got lost on the hiking trail?" Liv asked, her voice rising above the gentle sounds of nature. "Oh, God, yes." Caitlin laughed, her eyes sparkling with the memory. "We ended up at that weird old cabin. I thought we were going to be eaten by bears. Or worse, haunted by ghosts." Mary Kate added, her tone playful but her eyes darting to the tree line, as if expecting a specter to emerge. "Yeah, and Brad was convinced he could talk to them," Ashley teased, nudging him with her elbow. "Hey, I was just trying to be friendly," Brad protested, but the laughter that followed was infectious, wrapping around them like a warm blanket. As they paddled further from the shore, the lake opened up before them, a vast canvas of blues and greens. The sun glinted off the surface, creating a dazzling display that made it hard to look away. But amidst the laughter and the stories, a tension lingered, particularly between Brad and Ashley. Mary Kate noticed it first, the way Brad's gaze lingered on Ashley, a softness in his eyes that spoke of something deeper than friendship. And Ashley, for her part, seemed to dance around the topic, her laughter a little too bright, her smiles a little too forced. "Hey, let's try to catch some fish," Paige suggested, breaking the momentary silence that had settled over them. "I brought my lucky lure." "Lucky, huh?" Caitlin raised an eyebrow, a smirk playing on her lips. "You mean the one that got us tangled in that tree last time?" "Shut up. It was an accident," Paige shot back, but her laughter betrayed her. As they began to fish, the atmosphere shifted. The playful banter continued, but the undercurrents of tension grew stronger. Mary Kate could feel it in the way Brad's hand brushed against Ashley's as they both reached for the same fishing rod, the way Ashley's laughter faltered when Brad leaned in a little too close to whisper something in her ear. "Got one," Liv shouted suddenly, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. She reeled in her line with a flourish, a small fish flopping at the end. "Look at this beauty. Nice catch," Caitlin cheered, clapping her hands. "Let's see if I can beat that," Brad said, his competitive spirit ignited. He cast his line with a practiced flick of his wrist, his focus intense. As the minutes passed, the laughter returned, but Mary Kate couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing beneath the surface. She glanced at Ashley, who was watching Brad with an expression that was both admiration and something else. Something more vulnerable. "Hey, Ashley," Mary Kate said, her voice light but probing. "What do you think of Brad's fishing skills? Think he can catch a bigger fish than Liv?" Ashley's gaze flickered to Mary Kate, surprise evident in her eyes. I mean, he's okay," she replied, her tone nonchalant, but Mary Kate could see the blush creeping up her cheeks. "Just okay," Brad chimed in, overhearing. "I'll have you know I'm a fishing legend in my own right." "Legend. More like a myth," Caitlin teased, and the group erupted in laughter once more. But as the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the water. The laughter began to fade. The air grew thick with unspoken words, and Mary-Kate felt the weight of it pressing down on her. "Hey, can we take a break?" Ashley suggested suddenly, her voice quieter than before. "I need some water." "Sure," Liv said, her brow furrowing slightly. "We can take a breather." As they drifted in the canoe, the gentle rocking of the water seemed to mimic the turmoil brewing within each of them. Mary-Kate watched as Ashley leaned over the side of the canoe, her fingers trailing in the water, the sunlight catching the strands of her hair like spun gold. "Everything okay?" Brad asked. Chapter 3. The fish jump in. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a golden glow over the tranquil lake, where the water shimmered like 1,000 diamonds scattered across its surface. The air was thick with the scent of pine and the distant sound of laughter, remnants of the joyous camaraderie shared by Mary-Kate, Paige, Liv, Caitlin, Ashley, and Brad. Just moments ago, they had set out on their rustic canoe, the wood creaking gently beneath their weight as they paddled into the heart of the lake, their spirits buoyed by the promise of adventure and the thrill of fishing. As they drifted further from the shore, the laughter echoed across the water, mingling with the soft lapping of waves against the canoe. But beneath the surface of their playful banter, unspoken feelings simmered, particularly between Brad and Ashley, whose glances lingered just a heartbeat too long. The day was ripe with potential, and the air crackled with a mix of excitement and tension. Suddenly, the tranquility shattered. A splash erupted beside them, followed by another, and then another. Fish began to leap from the water, their scales glinting in the sunlight as they flopped wildly into the canoe. The chaos was instantaneous. "Holy!" Liv squealed, her eyes wide with delight as a silver fish landed squarely in her lap, flapping desperately. "Look! They're jumping in." Caitlin, ever the adventurous spirit, lunged forward, her hands outstretched as she attempted to catch one midair. "I got this!" she shouted, her laughter ringing out like a bell. The fish wriggled and slipped through her fingers, splashing water everywhere, but she was undeterred. "Come here, you slippery little thing." Paige doubled over, her laughter infectious as she pointed at Caitlin's antics. "You look like a fish out of water yourself." Mary-Kate, sitting at the back of the canoe, couldn't help but join in the laughter, her heart racing with the thrill of the unexpected. "This is insane. I've never seen anything like it." Brad, who had been quietly observing the chaos, finally broke into a wide grin. "Maybe they think we're the ones fishing for them." He leaned over the side of the canoe, trying to catch a glimpse of the fish still leaping in the water. Ashley, however, was less amused. She sat with her arms crossed, her brow furrowed as she watched the fish flop around. "This is ridiculous," she muttered, though a small smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. "We're supposed to be fishing, not hosting a fish party." "Come on, Ash. Live a little," Liv exclaimed, her laughter bubbling over as another fish landed near her feet, sending her squealing again. As the girls continued to revel in the unexpected chaos, Brad's gaze drifted to the shore. There, an old fisherman stood, his silhouette stark against the backdrop of the trees. He was a figure of mystery, his weathered face partially obscured by a wide-brimmed hat, but his eyes glinted with a knowing spark. He watched the group with an intensity that sent a shiver down Brad's spine. "Hey, guys, look over there." Brad pointed toward the shore, his voice cutting through the laughter. The girls turned, their laughter fading as they noticed the old man. "Who is that?" Caitlin asked, her curiosity piqued. "I don't know," Brad replied, his brow furrowing. "But he's been watching us for a while now." "Maybe he's a ghost fisherman," Paige joked, but her voice held a hint of unease. "Or a guardian of the lake," Liv added, her eyes wide with excitement. Ashley rolled her eyes, but even she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Let's just focus on the fish, okay? We're here to have fun, not get spooked by some old guy. As if on cue, another fish leapt into the canoe, landing squarely on Ashley's lap. She yelped, her composure cracking as she jumped up, nearly tipping the canoe. Okay, that's it, I'm done. The laughter erupted again, and even Ashley couldn't help but chuckle as she carefully scooted to the edge of the canoe, trying to avoid the flopping fish. You guys are insane. Insanely awesome. Liv corrected, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Amidst the chaos, Brad felt a strange pull toward the old fisherman. There was something about the way he watched them, a depth of understanding that seemed to transcend the moment. He turned to Ashley, who was still trying to shake off the fish. What do you think he's thinking? Ashley shrugged, her expression softening as she caught the intensity in Brad's gaze. Maybe he's just enjoying the show. Or maybe he knows something we don't, Brad mused, his voice low. Like what? Ashley challenged, her curiosity piqued despite herself. Like, why the fish are jumping in, he replied, his tone playful yet serious. Or why you're staring at him like he's some kind of oracle, Ashley shot back, a teasing smile breaking through her earlier annoyance. Hey, I can appreciate a good mystery, Brad said, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Besides, it is not every day you see fish committing suicide for a bunch of teenagers. As the laughter resumed, the old fisherman remained a silent observer, his presence lingering like a shadow over the group. The sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting long reflections on the water, and the air grew thick with the scent of impending evening. Okay, let's get serious, Caitlin said, finally managing to catch a fish in her hands. I'm going to show you all how it is done. She held the wriggling creature triumphantly, her cheeks flushed with excitement. Nice catch. Mary Kate cheered, clapping her hands. Now, that's a fish. Liv added, her eyes sparkling with admiration. But just as Caitlin was about to release the fish back into the water, it slipped from her grasp, flopping back into the lake with a splash. No, she cried, her laughter mingling with frustration. Looks like it is a slippery one. Brad teased, leaning back against the canoe, his eyes dancing with amusement. Okay, let's try again, Caitlin said, determination etched on her face. I'm not giving up that easily. As the sun continued its descent, the group fell into a rhythm of laughter and playful competition, each girl trying to outdo the other in catching fish. The old fisherman remained a distant figure, his gaze unwavering, as if he were waiting for something to unfold. But as the evening wore on, the laughter began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of unease. The fish had stopped jumping. Chapter 4. A sudden storm. The sun had hung high in the sky, casting a golden glow over the tranquil lake, and laughter had danced across the water like the shimmering reflections of the trees lining the shore. Mary Kate, Paige, Liv, Caitlin, Ashley, and Brad had set out on their fishing adventure with spirits high and hearts light, each of them wrapped in the warmth of friendship. The canoe, a weathered vessel that had seen countless summers, had rocked gently as they paddled, their voices mingling with the soft lapping of the waves. But as the day wore on, the atmosphere shifted, and the playful banter began to fade, replaced by an undercurrent of unspoken feelings. Especially between Brad and Ashley, whose glances lingered just a moment too long. Now, as the sun dipped lower, the sky darkened ominously. The first rumble of thunder rolled across the lake, a deep growl that sent a shiver through the group. Mary Kate squinted at the horizon, where dark clouds gathered like an army preparing for battle. Guys. I think we should head back, she said, her voice laced with concern. Come on, it is just a little cloud cover. Paige laughed, though her smile faltered as she glanced at the sky. What's a little rain? But the wind had other plans. It whipped through the trees, sending leaves spiraling into the air, and the once calm surface of the lake began to churn. Waves crashed against the sides of the canoe, splashing cold water onto their laps. The laughter that had filled the air moments before turned to shouts of alarm. "Hold on!" Brad shouted, gripping the sides of the canoe as it rocked violently. He glanced at Ashley, who was wide-eyed, her hands gripping the edge of the boat. "We need to paddle harder." "Where?" Ashley yelled over the rising wind, her voice tinged with panic. "The shore is too far. Just keep paddling. We can make it." Brad's heart raced, not just from the storm but from the way Ashley's eyes locked onto his, a mix of fear and something deeper swirling between them. Liv, who had been squealing with delight just moments ago, now clung to Caitlin, her laughter replaced by nervous giggles. "This is not what I signed up for," she exclaimed, her voice rising with each wave that splashed over the side. "Just focus," Caitlin shouted, her brow furrowed in concentration as she tried to steer the canoe. "We can't let it tip." The storm intensified, the wind howling like a wild beast, and the rain began to fall in heavy sheets, drenching them instantly. The world around them blurred into a chaotic swirl of gray and blue, the once familiar landscape transformed into a tempestuous sea. Mary Kate's heart raced as she fought to keep her grip on the paddle, her eyes darting between her friends, each of them struggling against the elements. "Paige, help me," she cried, her voice barely audible over the roar of the storm. Paige, who had been laughing just moments before, now looked terrified, her face pale as she fought to keep her balance. "I'm trying," she shouted back, her voice cracking. "This is insane." In the chaos, Brad and Ashley found themselves huddled together, their bodies instinctively drawing closer for warmth and reassurance. The storm raged around them, but in that moment, the world outside faded, and all that mattered was the connection that sparked between them. Brad could feel the heat radiating from Ashley's body, and despite the fear that gripped them, a sense of calm washed over him. "Hey," he said softly, leaning closer so she could hear him over the storm. "We'll get through this. Just keep paddling." Ashley nodded, her eyes wide but determined. "Right. Together, right. Together," he echoed, a promise hanging in the air between them. As they paddled, the storm seemed to grow in intensity, the wind howling like a banshee, and the rain stinging their skin. The canoe lurched violently, and for a moment, it felt as if they might capsize. Caitlin let out a scream as she lost her grip on her paddle, and Liv scrambled to grab it, her fingers slipping on the wet wood. "Caitlin, hold on," Liv shouted, her voice filled with urgency. "Don't let go." "I'm trying," Caitlin cried, her face a mask of fear. "I can't." With a sudden jolt, the canoe tipped dangerously to one side, and for a heart-stopping moment, it felt as if they were all going to be thrown into the churning water. Brad's instincts kicked in, and he reached out, grabbing Ashley's arm to steady her. "Lean in," he yelled, his voice firm. "We can't let it tip." The others followed suit, leaning toward the center of the canoe, their bodies pressed together in a desperate attempt to balance the vessel. The storm raged on, but in that moment of chaos, a sense of unity formed among them, a bond forged in the face of adversity. "Look," Mary Kate shouted, pointing toward the shore. "There's a dock. We can make it." "Paddle harder," Brad urged, his heart pounding as he caught Ashley's eye again. "We can do this." With renewed determination, they all paddled as one, their movements synchronized despite the chaos surrounding them. The shore loomed closer, the dark silhouette of the dock becoming more defined against the stormy backdrop. But just as hope began to swell in their chests, a blinding flash of lightning split the sky, illuminating the world in stark contrast for a brief moment. Go, go, Caitlin screamed, her voice cutting through the thunder as they pushed forward with all their strength. The canoe surged forward, propelled by adrenaline and fear, and with one final push, they reached the dock. Brad leapt out first, his feet hitting the wet wood with a splash. He turned back, extending his hand to Ashley, who was right behind him. Come on. Ashley grasped his hand, and as she stepped onto the dock, a surge of relief washed over her. But before they could celebrate, a deafening crack of thunder echoed overhead, and the rain fell harder, drenching them to the bone. Quick! Get under the shelter! Mary-Kate shouted, leading the way as they all scrambled toward the small wooden structure at the edge of the dock. They huddled together beneath the roof, panting and soaked, their hearts racing from the storm and the adrenaline of their narrow escape. The rain hammered down around them, creating a symphony of chaos that echoed in their ears. I can't believe we made it! Liv exclaimed, her eyes wide with disbelief. That was insane. Yeah, insane is one word for it, Caitlin said, her voice shaky as she tried to catch her breath. I thought we were going to drown. Thanks for keeping us steady, Brad, Ashley said. Chapter 5. Chapter 5. The waterfall. The storm had come in like a thief in the night, stealing away the laughter and light of the day. Just moments before, Mary-Kate, Paige, Liv, Caitlin, Ashley, and Brad had been reveling in the joy of their fishing trip, their voices mingling with the gentle lapping of the lake against the canoe. But as dark clouds rolled in, the atmosphere shifted, turning their carefree adventure into a frantic struggle for survival. The sudden chaos of flopping fish and the old fisherman's watchful gaze faded into the background as the storm unleashed its fury, sending waves crashing against the small vessel. In the midst of the turmoil, Brad and Ashley had found solace in each other's presence, their connection deepening as they clung together, unaware of the peril that awaited them. Now, as the canoe was thrust toward the hidden waterfall, the friends were gripped by a sense of impending doom. The roar of the water grew louder, drowning out their shouts of alarm. Paddle! Paddle! Mary-Kate screamed, her voice barely piercing through the cacophony of wind and rain. But it was too late. The canoe tipped precariously, and in a heart-stopping moment, they were all sent tumbling over the edge. Time seemed to stretch as they plummeted into the unknown, the world around them a blur of water and fear. The sensation of weightlessness enveloped them, and for a fleeting second, they were suspended in a surreal silence before the icy embrace of the lake swallowed them whole. Mary-Kate's instincts kicked in, and she reached out blindly, her fingers brushing against Liv's arm. Hold on! She shouted, her voice muffled by the water. Panic surged through her as she felt the cold grip of the lake pulling her down. She fought against it, her heart racing as she clawed her way back to the surface, gasping for air. The moment she broke through, she saw the others struggling, their faces etched with fear. Brad's eyes were wide, and Ashley's expression was a mix of terror and determination. We need to regroup, he shouted, his voice strained against the roar of the waterfall behind them. Caitlin was the first to reach Mary-Kate, her hair plastered to her face, eyes wild with adrenaline. Where's Paige? She cried, scanning the churning water. I don't know. Mary-Kate's heart sank. The realization that they could be separated in this chaos was terrifying. We have to find her. Liv emerged next, spluttering and gasping, her laughter from moments ago replaced by sheer panic. This isn't funny anymore, she yelled, her voice cracking. Stay together, Brad commanded, his tone firm despite the fear flickering in his eyes. We can't let the current pull us apart. As they struggled to stay afloat, the waterfall loomed ominously above them, a curtain of white cascading down with a deafening roar. The water churned violently, and Mary-Kate felt the pull of the current tugging at her legs, threatening to drag her under. She locked eyes with Ashley, who was clinging to Brad's arm, her expression a mix of fear and something deeper. Something that had been brewing beneath the surface of their friendship. "Brad!" Ashley shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. "What do we do?" "Swim to the rocks," he yelled, pointing toward a jagged outcrop that jutted out from the side of the waterfall. "We can make it." With a collective nod, the group began to swim, their bodies fighting against the relentless current. Mary-Kate's muscles burned as she pushed herself forward, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the weight of the water pressing down on her, but she refused to give in. They had to make it. "Come on, guys," Caitlin urged, her voice strained but determined. "We're almost there." As they neared the rocks, Mary-Kate glanced back, her heart racing at the sight of the waterfall crashing down behind them. The sheer power of it was both mesmerizing and terrifying. She could see the spray rising like mist, and for a moment, she was struck by the beauty of it all. A stark contrast to the chaos they were experiencing. "Grab my hand," Brad shouted, reaching out toward Mary-Kate as she approached the rocks. She lunged forward, her fingers brushing against his, and with a surge of strength, he pulled her up onto the ledge. One by one, they scrambled onto the rocky outcrop, breathless and soaked to the bone. Liv was the last to reach them, her face pale but determined. "Is everyone okay?" she gasped, looking around at her friends. "I think so," Mary-Kate replied, her voice shaky. "But we need to get out of here before the current pulls us back in." As they huddled together on the rocks, the reality of their situation began to sink in. The storm raged above them, the rain pouring down in sheets, but they were safe. At least for the moment. The adrenaline that had fueled their escape began to ebb, replaced by a heavy silence. "Where are we?" Paige asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She looked around, her eyes wide with uncertainty. The rocks were slick and treacherous, and the sound of the waterfall was deafening. "I don't know," Brad admitted, running a hand through his wet hair. "But we need to find a way back to the canoe. Or at least to shore," Ashley added, her voice trembling slightly. She was still clinging to Brad's arm, and Mary-Kate noticed the way their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. "Let's take a minute to catch our breath," Caitlin suggested, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "We can't make any rash decisions right now." As they sat on the rocks, the rain continued to pour, soaking them to the bone. Mary-Kate could feel the chill seeping into her bones, but it was the tension in the air that made her shiver. The unspoken feelings between Brad and Ashley hung heavy, and she could sense the weight of their connection, the way they leaned into each other for support. "Do you think the old fisherman saw us?" Liv asked suddenly, breaking the silence. Her eyes darted toward the waterfall, as if expecting him to appear at any moment. "I don't know," Mary-Kate replied, her brow furrowing. "But he seemed different. Like he knew something we didn't." "Maybe he was trying to warn us," Caitlin mused, her voice thoughtful. "Or maybe he was just watching for his own amusement." "Either way, we need to focus on getting out of here," Brad said, his tone firm. "We can't let ourselves get distracted." As they sat in silence, the sound of the waterfall became a constant reminder of their precarious situation. The water cascaded down with relentless force, and Mary-Kate couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The air was thick with tension. Chapter 6. Wings of Safety. The storm had come crashing down upon them like a wild beast, fierce and unrelenting. Just moments before, laughter had danced across the lake, but now chaos reigned as the canoe tipped precariously over the edge of the hidden waterfall. Mary-Kate, Paige, Liv, Caitlin, Ashley, and Brad had clung to each other, their hearts pounding in unison, bracing for the inevitable plunge into the unknown. But instead of the icy grip of water, they felt a sudden rush of air beneath them, and the world transformed. As they fell, the canoe miraculously sprouted wings, gliding gracefully through the air instead of crashing down. The sensation was surreal, as if they had been plucked from the jaws of danger and thrust into a realm of wonder. The wind whipped through their hair, carrying with it the scent of pine and rain, and for a fleeting moment, fear was replaced by exhilaration. "Is this real?" Liv shouted, her voice a mix of disbelief and joy. She threw her arms wide, embracing the freedom of flight, her laughter ringing out like a bell. "I think we're flying," Caitlin exclaimed, her eyes wide with wonder. She leaned over the edge of the canoe, watching the treetops rush by beneath them, a blur of green and brown. Brad, still huddled close to Ashley, felt a surge of adrenaline course through him. He turned to her, their faces inches apart, and for the first time, he saw her not just as a friend but as something more. "Can you believe this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper, the thrill of the moment igniting something deep within him. Ashley's eyes sparkled with excitement, and she nodded, her heart racing. "It's incredible. We're flying." The words tumbled from her lips, and she couldn't help but laugh, the sound mingling with the rush of wind around them. As the canoe soared higher, the world below transformed into a patchwork quilt of colors. The lake shimmered like 1,000 diamonds, the trees swayed gently in the breeze, and the storm clouds began to dissipate, revealing patches of blue sky. The friends shared glances, their expressions a mix of awe and disbelief, each one silently acknowledging the bond that had brought them to this moment. "Look at that." Paige pointed toward a distant mountain range, its peaks dusted with snow. "We can see everything from up here." Mary Kate, who had been silent until now, felt a swell of emotion. "This is amazing," she breathed, her heart swelling with gratitude for her friends. "We're together, and we're safe." But as they soared, a flicker of doubt crept into her mind. What if this was just an illusion? What if they fell again? She glanced at Brad and Ashley, their connection palpable, and felt a pang of longing. She had always been the glue that held the group together, but in this moment, she felt like an outsider, watching their bond deepen while she stood on the periphery. "Hey, what do you think is happening?" Caitlin asked, breaking the spell of silence that had settled over them. "How is this even possible?" "I don't know," Brad replied, his voice steady despite the chaos of emotions swirling within him. "But I think we should enjoy it while it lasts." He looked at Ashley, and their eyes locked for a heartbeat longer than necessary, a silent understanding passing between them. As if sensing the tension, the canoe dipped slightly, and the friends gasped, their laughter mingling with a hint of apprehension. "Maybe we should hold on tighter," Liv suggested, gripping the sides of the canoe as if it were a lifeline. "Good idea," Paige agreed, her voice laced with excitement and a hint of fear. "I don't want to fall out of this thing." The canoe responded to their collective energy, gliding smoothly through the air, and for a moment, they felt invincible. They were no longer just friends. They were adventurers, explorers of a world that defied logic and reason. As they soared higher, the landscape below shifted, revealing a hidden valley bathed in golden sunlight. A river wound its way through the lush greenery, sparkling like a ribbon of silver. "Look at that!" Caitlin exclaimed, pointing toward a waterfall cascading down the rocks, its roar a distant echo. "It's beautiful." Mary Kate felt a warmth spread through her chest, a sense of belonging that she had longed for. "We should go down there," she suggested, her voice filled with enthusiasm. "It looks like paradise." "Let's do it," Liv cheered, her spirit infectious. "We can land right by the water." Brad nodded, his heart racing with excitement. "All right, let's see if we can steer this thing." He leaned forward, gripping the sides of the canoe, and the others followed suit, their laughter ringing out as they directed their flight toward the valley below. As they descended, the wind whipped around them, and the world blurred into a kaleidoscope of colors. The thrill of the moment was intoxicating, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Mary-Kate felt free. The weight of unspoken feelings and insecurities lifted, replaced by the sheer joy of being alive, surrounded by friends who had become family. But as they neared the ground, a sudden gust of wind caught them off guard, sending the canoe spiraling. "Hold on!" Brad shouted, his voice filled with urgency. The friends clung to each other, their laughter turning to shouts of alarm as the canoe tilted dangerously. "Not like this!" Ashley cried, her heart racing as she locked eyes with Brad. In that moment, everything else faded away. The storm, the waterfall, the doubts. It was just the two of them, suspended in time, their connection deepening amidst the chaos. With a final surge of determination, Brad steadied the canoe, and they landed softly on the bank of the river, the impact gentle as if the earth itself had welcomed them home. The friends tumbled out, laughter spilling from their lips as they collapsed onto the grass, breathless and exhilarated. "Did we just fly?" Caitlin gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief. "I think we did," Liv replied, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "That was amazing." Mary-Kate lay back on the grass, staring up at the sky, her heart still racing. "I can't believe we made it," she murmured, a smile spreading across her face. But as the laughter faded, she felt the familiar pang of longing return. She glanced at Brad and Ashley, who were still caught in their own world, their connection undeniable. "Hey, can we talk?" she heard Brad say to Ashley, his voice low and serious. The words hung in the air, and Mary-Kate's heart sank. She turned away, pretending to admire the view, but the ache in her chest grew stronger. "Sure," Ashley replied, her tone softening. "What's on your mind?" Chapter 7. Chapter 7. A new perspective. The world had shifted beneath them, and as the friends floated above the landscape, the chaos of the storm faded into a distant memory. The canoe, now transformed into a vessel of wonder, glided effortlessly through the air, the wind tousling their hair and filling their lungs with the crisp scent of pine and freedom. Below them, the shimmering lake stretched out like a vast, blue canvas, dotted with the vibrant greens of the surrounding forest. The sun broke through the clouds, casting golden rays that danced across the water, illuminating the moment with a surreal glow. Mary-Kate, her heart still racing from the thrill of their miraculous escape, leaned over the edge of the canoe, her eyes wide with awe. "Can you believe this?" she exclaimed, her voice a mixture of disbelief and exhilaration. "We're flying." "More like gliding," Liv corrected, her laughter bubbling up like a stream. "But it feels like we're in a dream." Paige, ever the pragmatist, squinted at the horizon. "We should probably figure out how to land this thing. I don't want to end up in the middle of nowhere." "Relax, Paige," Caitlin chimed in, her voice light and teasing. "We're not going to crash. We're invincible." She threw her arms wide, embracing the moment, her laughter ringing out like a bell. Brad, sitting close to Ashley, felt the warmth of her presence beside him. He turned to her, his expression softening. "What do you think? Are we really flying, or is this just a wild hallucination?" Ashley met his gaze, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "I think it is a sign that we should embrace the unexpected. Who knows what else is out there waiting for us?" As they soared higher, the landscape unfolded beneath them like a storybook, each twist and turn revealing new wonders. The friends fell into a comfortable silence, each lost in their thoughts, the thrill of flight giving them a new perspective on their lives and relationships. Caitlin, her heart racing with both excitement and trepidation, felt the urge to share something that had been weighing on her for far too long. "You guys," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "I have to tell you something." The others turned to her, their expressions shifting from playful to attentive. "What is it?" Liv asked, her curiosity piqued. Caitlin took a deep breath, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. "I've had a crush on Brad for a while now," she confessed, her cheeks flushing with vulnerability. "Like, a really long time." The air seemed to thicken with tension as Brad's eyes widened in surprise. He glanced at Ashley, who was watching him intently, her expression unreadable. "Caitlin, Wait," Ashley interjected, her voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of emotion. "Before we dive into that, I have something to say too." She turned to Liv, her gaze softening. "I've admired you for a long time, Liv. Your spirit, your passion. It is inspiring." Liv's breath caught in her throat, her heart racing as she processed Ashley's words. You admire me," she stammered, a mix of disbelief and joy flooding her senses. "Yeah," Ashley replied, her cheeks tinged with pink. "I didn't know how to say it, but I've always thought you were amazing." The revelation hung in the air, a delicate thread weaving between them, binding their hearts in a way that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Caitlin's confession had opened a door, and now they were standing on the threshold of something new and uncharted. "Wow," Mary-Kate said, breaking the silence. "This is unexpected. Tell me about it," Brad murmured, his gaze shifting between Caitlin and Ashley. "I had no idea." Caitlin's heart raced as she watched Brad's reaction, a mix of hope and fear swirling within her. "I didn't want to ruin our friendship," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "But I couldn't keep it to myself anymore." "Caitlin, you could never ruin our friendship," Brad said, his tone earnest. "I care about you. I didn't know you felt that way." Ashley's eyes flickered with uncertainty as she glanced at Liv. "And I didn't want to make things awkward between us," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I can't help how I feel." Liv's heart swelled with emotion, her mind racing as she processed Ashley's words. "I've always thought you were incredible, Ashley. I just didn't know if you saw me the same way." The air crackled with unspoken tension, each friend grappling with their feelings, the weight of their confessions hanging like a fragile thread above the vast expanse of the lake below. The beauty of their surroundings felt almost surreal, a stark contrast to the emotional storm brewing within the canoe. As they floated higher, the world below them transformed into a patchwork of colors and shapes, the trees swaying gently in the breeze. The sun cast a warm glow over the landscape, illuminating their faces and highlighting the vulnerability etched in their expressions. "Maybe this is what we needed," Mary-Kate suggested, her voice steady. "A new perspective. We're up here, away from everything, and we can be honest with each other." "Yeah," Paige added, her tone thoughtful. "It's like we're seeing our lives from a different angle. All the things we've kept inside. Maybe it is time to let them out." Caitlin nodded, her heart racing as she felt the weight of her confession lift. "I just want us to be real with each other. No more hiding." Brad's gaze softened as he looked at Caitlin, his heart swelling with admiration. "I appreciate you sharing that with us. It takes courage to be vulnerable." Ashley reached for Liv's hand, their fingers intertwining in a gesture of solidarity. "And I'm grateful for you, Liv. I want to explore this. Whatever it is, together." Liv's heart soared, a mixture of joy and apprehension swirling within her. "I'd like that," she said, her voice steady. "I want to see where this leads us." As they floated above the landscape, the friends felt a sense of unity enveloping them, a bond forged in honesty and vulnerability. The laughter and teasing that had once defined their friendship had transformed into something deeper, something that resonated with the truth of their hearts. But just as they began to embrace this new chapter, A shadow flickered across the sunlit landscape, a dark cloud looming on the horizon. The wind shifted, carrying with it a chill that sent shivers down their spines. "What was that?" Paige asked, her voice laced with concern. "I don't know," Mary-Kate replied, her brow furrowing. "But it doesn't feel good." As the shadow grew closer, the friends exchanged worried glances. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. The landing. The storm had come like a thief in the night, stealing their laughter and replacing it with chaos. Just moments before, Mary-Kate, Paige, Liv, Caitlin, Ashley, and Brad had been reveling in the joy of their fishing trip, the sun glistening on the lake's surface, their canoe bobbing gently with the rhythm of their laughter. But as dark clouds rolled in, the air thickened with tension, and the once calm waters turned treacherous. They had clung to each other as they plummeted over the hidden waterfall, hearts racing, breaths caught in their throats. Yet, in a miraculous twist, their canoe had sprouted wings, lifting them high above the treetops, where fear transformed into exhilaration. Now, as they floated gently down, the storm a mere memory, the canoe glided toward a secluded beach, its sandy shores kissed by the fading light of day. The friends exchanged glances, their hearts still racing, but now with a different kind of thrill. The canoe touched down softly, the wood creaking as they disembarked, their feet sinking into the warm, golden sand. The beach stretched out before them, a hidden paradise framed by lush greenery and the gentle lapping of waves. The air was rich with the scent of salt and pine, mingling with the fading warmth of the sun. "Is this real?" Liv whispered, her eyes wide with wonder as she took in the beauty around them. "It feels like a dream," Caitlin replied, brushing her fingers through the sand, letting it slip through her grasp. "I can't believe we just flew over that waterfall." "More like we soared," Brad said, a grin spreading across his face. He looked at Ashley, who stood beside him, her hair tousled by the wind. "I think we should do that again sometime." Ashley laughed, a sound that rang like music in the stillness. "Next time, let's skip the storm, okay?" Mary-Kate, ever the adventurous spirit, was already wandering toward the water's edge, her bare feet leaving prints in the sand. "Come on, let's explore," she called, her voice bright with excitement. The group followed her, their earlier fears forgotten, replaced by the thrill of discovery. They wandered along the beach, the sun dipping lower in the sky, painting the horizon in hues of orange and pink. "Look!" Paige shouted, pointing to a cluster of smooth stones glistening in the sand. "Treasure!" They gathered around, picking up the stones, marveling at their colors and shapes. Each one felt like a piece of the Earth's history, a reminder of the journey they had taken to get here. "I bet these are worth a fortune," Caitlin joked, holding up a particularly shiny rock. "Or at least a good story." "Let's make a pact," Brad suggested, his voice serious now. "Whatever happens next, we keep this moment with us. No matter where life takes us." Ashley nodded, her gaze locked on him. "Agreed. This is our secret place." As the sun continued to sink, casting long shadows across the sand, the group settled down on a blanket of soft grass just beyond the beach. They shared stories, laughter echoing in the air, each tale weaving them closer together. "I once tried to catch a fish with my bare hands," Liv confessed, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "I ended up falling in the lake and scaring all the fish away." "Classic Liv," Caitlin teased, nudging her playfully. "But I think you've got some competition now." "Hey, I caught one," Liv protested, laughing. "It just happened to jump into the canoe instead of my hands." As the laughter faded, a comfortable silence settled over them, the sound of the waves providing a soothing backdrop. Brad glanced at Ashley, who was watching the sunset, her expression thoughtful. "Hey," he said softly, drawing her attention. "Can we talk?" Ashley's heart raced, a mix of anticipation and anxiety swirling within her. Sure, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. They moved a little away from the group, the warmth of the sand beneath their feet grounding them as they stood side by side. The sun dipped lower, casting a golden glow around them, and for a moment, it felt like the world had faded away, leaving just the two of them. "I've been thinking," Brad began, his voice steady but his eyes betraying a hint of vulnerability. "About everything that happened today. About us." Ashley's breath caught in her throat. "Me too," she admitted, her heart pounding. "I didn't know if I should say anything." "Why not?" Brad asked, turning to face her fully. "We've been dancing around this for too long." Ashley felt a rush of warmth at his words, the tension between them palpable. "I guess I was afraid of ruining what we have," she confessed, her gaze dropping to the sand. "But I can't ignore how I feel anymore." Brad stepped closer, his presence both comforting and electrifying. "I feel the same way. I've liked you for a long time, Ashley. I just didn't know how to tell you." Her heart soared at his confession, but a flicker of doubt crept in. "What if it changes everything?" "Maybe it will," he replied, his voice earnest. "But maybe it'll change it for the better. We've been through so much together. I don't want to hide this anymore." Ashley looked up, meeting his gaze, and in that moment, the world around them faded away. The sunset painted the sky in brilliant colors, but all she could see was Brad, his eyes filled with sincerity. "Okay," she said, her voice steady now. "Let's not hide anymore." Brad's face broke into a smile, a mixture of relief and joy washing over him. He reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining, and the warmth of their connection sent a thrill through her. Just then, a loud splash interrupted their moment, and they turned to see Caitlin and Liv splashing each other in the water, their laughter ringing out like music. "Come on, you two lovebirds," Caitlin called, her voice teasing. "Join us." Ashley and Brad exchanged a glance, their smiles widening. "Let's go," he said, pulling her toward the water. As they ran toward the waves, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a final burst of color across the sky. The air was filled with laughter and splashes, the sound of friendship and newfound love mingling in the twilight. But as they played, a shadow lingered at the edge of the beach, the old fisherman from before, watching with a knowing glint in his eyes. "Every adventure has its price," he murmured to himself, the wind carrying his words away. And as the stars began to twinkle above, the friends remained blissfully unaware of the challenges that lay ahead. Chapter 9. The mystery unveiled. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the secluded beach where the friends had landed after their miraculous flight. The echoes of laughter and shared secrets lingered in the air, a sweet reminder of the bonds they had forged amidst chaos. As the last remnants of the storm faded into memory, the group stood together, hearts racing from the thrill of their adventure and the weight of unspoken confessions still hanging between them. Mary Kate, brushing sand from her arms, turned to the others. "Can you believe we just flew? I mean, really flew." Her eyes sparkled with excitement, a stark contrast to the earlier chaos. "Yeah, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that we didn't die," Caitlin added, her voice a mix of disbelief and exhilaration. She glanced at Brad, who stood a few feet away, his expression contemplative. Ashley, still feeling the warmth of Brad's presence beside her, caught his gaze. "What do you think happened back there?" she asked, her voice soft, almost hesitant. Before Brad could respond, a figure emerged from the shadows of the trees lining the beach. The old fisherman, whom they had seen earlier, approached with a slow, deliberate gait. His weathered face was framed by a wild mane of gray hair, and his eyes sparkled with a knowing glint. "Ah, my young adventurers," he called, his voice deep and resonant, like the rumble of distant thunder. I see you've made it through the trials of the lake. The group exchanged glances, a mix of curiosity and apprehension swirling among them. Who are you? Liv asked, stepping forward, her brow furrowed. What do you mean, trials of the lake? The fisherman chuckled softly, a sound that seemed to blend with the gentle lapping of the waves. I am but a guardian of this lake, a keeper of its secrets. The waters here are enchanted, and they test the bonds of friendship and love. Enchanted, Paige echoed, skepticism lacing her tone. You expect us to believe that? Believe what you will, young lady, he replied, his gaze steady. But the canoe you rowed was not merely a vessel. It was a reflection of your hearts. The wings it grew were a testament to the strength of your connections. Caitlin crossed her arms, her expression a mixture of intrigue and doubt. So, you're saying our friendship made the canoe fly? Precisely, the fisherman said, nodding. The lake has a way of revealing truths, and it seems your adventure was not just about fishing, but about discovering the depths of your relationships. As he spoke, the friends exchanged glances, the weight of his words settling over them like a warm blanket. Each of them had shared something profound during their flight, and now, standing on the beach, they felt the urge to delve deeper into those revelations. Okay, so what does that mean for us? Ashley asked, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. What are we supposed to do with this knowledge? The old fisherman smiled, his eyes twinkling with mischief. That is for you to discover. The lake has given you a gift, but it is up to you to nurture it. Love and friendship require care, just as the waters of this lake need the rain to flourish. Brad stepped forward, his brow furrowed in thought. But what if we don't know how to take care of it? What if we mess it up? Ah, the fisherman said, raising a finger as if to emphasize his point. That is the beauty of it. Mistakes will be made, but it is through those mistakes that you will learn. Embrace the uncertainty, for it is part of the journey. The group fell silent, each lost in their thoughts. The sun continued its descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, and the air was thick with the scent of salt and adventure. I think I understand, Liv finally said, her voice breaking the stillness. We have to be honest with each other. No more hiding our feelings. Caitlin nodded, her heart racing. I agree. We've all shared so much already. It's time to be real. Ashley glanced at Brad, her heart pounding. I have something to say. The group turned to her, anticipation hanging in the air. I've liked you for a long time, Brad, she confessed, her voice trembling slightly. I didn't know how to tell you, and I was scared of ruining our friendship. Brad's eyes widened, surprise etched across his features. Ashley, Before he could finish, Caitlin interjected, her cheeks flushed. I have something to say too. I've had a crush on you for ages, Brad. I thought I was the only one. The tension in the air shifted, morphing into something electric. Brad looked between the two girls, his heart racing. Wow, I didn't know. Neither did we, Liv chimed in, her voice light but serious. But we need to be honest. I've had feelings for Ashley too. Ashley's breath caught in her throat, her heart swelling with a mix of joy and confusion. You what? I've always admired you, Liv admitted, her cheeks turning a shade of crimson. You're brave and kind, and I didn't know how to say it. The fisherman watched with a knowing smile, as if he had orchestrated this moment all along. See, he said, his voice warm. The lake has brought you together, but it is your choice to embrace the truth. Brad took a deep breath, his mind racing. I care about both of you, but I need to figure out what that means. I don't want to hurt anyone. None of us want to hurt each other, Caitlin said, her voice steady. But we can't keep pretending. We need to talk about this. The group fell into a contemplative silence, the weight of their confessions hanging in the air like the last rays of sunlight. Maybe we should take a walk, Paige suggested, breaking the tension. We can figure things out together. As they began to stroll along the shoreline, the old fisherman watched them with a satisfied smile. He knew that the lake had worked its magic, and now it was up to the friends to navigate the waters of their emotions. The sound of waves crashing against the shore accompanied their footsteps, a soothing rhythm that mirrored the tumult of their hearts. I've always felt like we were meant to be more than just friends, Mary-Kate said, her voice barely above a whisper. But I didn't know how to say it. Me too, Liv replied, glancing at Ashley. I think we all feel that way. Chapter 10. Chapter 10. A New Beginning. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the tranquil lake as the group paddled back toward the dock. The air was thick with the scent of pine and the lingering thrill of their recent adventure. Laughter still echoed in their ears, a sweet reminder of the chaos they had embraced together. Brad and Ashley, now entwined in a budding romance, exchanged shy glances, their fingers brushing against each other's as they maneuvered the canoe. Liv and Caitlin, buoyed by their confessions, shared conspiratorial whispers, while Mary-Kate and Paige reveled in the camaraderie that had deepened through their shared trials. As they approached the dock, the familiar sight of the weathered wood brought a sense of grounding. The old fisherman stood at the water's edge, his silhouette framed by the setting sun. He raised a hand in greeting, a knowing smile playing on his lips. The friends exchanged glances, a silent acknowledgement of the magic they had experienced. They were no longer just a group of friends. They were a family forged in the fires of adventure and vulnerability. Can you believe we actually flew? Liv exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I mean, who knew canoes could sprout wings? Caitlin laughed, her voice light and airy. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that I confessed my crush and didn't die of embarrassment. Hey, you were brave. Paige chimed in, nudging Caitlin playfully. And besides, it is not like Brad didn't have a few secrets of his own. Brad, who had been quietly contemplating the day, looked up, a hint of color rising to his cheeks. What secrets? I'm an open book, he protested, though the twinkle in his eye betrayed his amusement. Ashley leaned closer to him, her voice soft yet teasing. Oh really? Then what's the story behind that little smirk you've been wearing since we landed? He chuckled, the sound warm and inviting. All right, guilty as charged. I might have been thinking about how I'm going to ask you out on our next adventure. The air around them shifted, charged with a new energy. Ashley's heart raced, and she felt a flutter of excitement mixed with nerves. You mean, like a real date? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Absolutely, he replied, his gaze steady and sincere. I want to explore more than just lakes and beaches with you. The moment hung between them, electric and alive. The others, sensing the shift, exchanged knowing glances, their teasing momentarily forgotten. It was a new beginning, not just for Brad and Ashley, but for all of them. As they stepped onto the dock, the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. The world around them felt transformed, as if the very air sparkled with possibility. Mary-Kate took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of the lake mixed with the sweet aroma of wildflowers. I can't believe how much has changed in just one day, she mused, her voice thoughtful. Right. Liv agreed, her eyes wide with wonder. It's like we've been given a second chance at everything. Caitlin nodded, her expression serious. I think we've all learned something important today. It's not just about the adventures we have, but the people we share them with. Brad stepped closer to Ashley, his hand finding hers. And we're all in this together, right? No matter what happens next. Always, Paige affirmed, her voice strong and unwavering. We're a team. As they made their way back to their cars, the laughter resumed, a melody of joy that filled the air. The old fisherman watched them from the shore, his eyes glinting with approval. He knew that the bonds forged today would withstand the tests of time, that the magic of the lake had worked its wonders once more. Once they reached the parking lot, the group gathered around their vehicles, the excitement of the day still buzzing in the air. So, what's next? Liv asked, her curiosity piqued. Are we going to plan another adventure? I vote for a camping trip, Caitlin suggested, her enthusiasm infectious. We can roast marshmallows and tell ghost stories. Or we could go hiking, Ashley chimed in, her eyes sparkling. There's a beautiful trail not far from here that leads to a waterfall. Brad nodded, his gaze shifting between Ashley and the group. I'm in for whatever brings us together. Just as long as we don't end up flying off any more waterfalls. The laughter that followed was bright and carefree, a sound that echoed through the twilight. As they settled into their cars, the sun finally dipped below the horizon, leaving a canvas of stars twinkling above them. The world felt vast and full of potential, and each of them was ready to embrace whatever came next. As they drove away, the old fisherman remained by the shore, a guardian of the lake and its secrets. He watched the friends disappear into the night, a satisfied smile on his face. They'll be back, he murmured to himself, his voice barely a whisper against the gentle lapping of the waves. The lake has more to teach them. The drive home was filled with chatter and laughter, the kind that made the miles melt away. But as they neared the town, a sense of unease settled over Ashley. She glanced at Brad, who was focused on the road, his expression thoughtful. Hey, can we talk? She asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. Of course, he replied, glancing at her with concern. What's on your mind? I want to make sure we're on the same page, she began, her heart racing. About us, I mean. This is all so new, and I don't want to rush into anything without knowing how you really feel. Brad's brow furrowed slightly as he processed her words. I get it. I've been thinking about it too. I like you, Ashley. A lot. But I also don't want to put any pressure on us. I want it to feel right. She nodded, relief washing over her. I just don't want to lose what we have. I care about you, and I don't want to mess it up. You won't, he assured her, his voice steady. We'll figure it out together. One step at a time. As they pulled into the driveway, the weight of their conversation lingered in the air. Ashley felt a mix of hope and apprehension, but she knew they were embarking on something special. They stepped out of the car, the cool night air wrapping around them like a comforting blanket. Hey, Brad said, turning to face her, his expression earnest. No matter what happens, I'm glad we're doing this. You mean a lot to me. Her heart swelled at his words, and she smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her. You mean a lot to me too. Just then,